An envelope is one of the most understated tools in human communication. It carries no message of its own, yet it dramatically alters how messages are perceived. A piece of paper outside an envelope feels informal, exposed, incomplete. The same paper inside an envelope feels intentional, directed, finished. That transformation is not accidental. Before envelopes existed, written communication traveled openly. Messages were written on sheets that were folded or rolled, sometimes tied with string or marked with wax. These methods offered some protection, but they were inconsistent and often symbolic rather than practical. The message and its container were the same thing. This created several problems at once. First, privacy was fragile. Anyone handling the message could see its contents, or at least its beginning. Second, messages lacked clear boundaries. Where one message ended and another began was not always obvious. Third, delivery depended heavily on trust. Couriers, intermediaries, and recipients all had to behave correctly for the system to work. The envelope emerged as a response to these limitations. At its core, the envelope is not a container in the traditional sense. It does not add strength. It does not add much protection from damage. What it adds is separation. The message becomes one object. The wrapper becomes another. This separation changes behavior. Once a message is enclosed, opening it becomes an action rather than an accident. The recipient must choose to break the seal, lift the flap, cross a line. That moment matters. It introduces intent into reading. This is the envelope's first major design achievement. Its second is directionality. An envelope presents a front and a back, an inside and an outside. The address tells the system where the message should go without revealing what the message says. This allows large-scale delivery networks to function without access to content. Information can move efficiently because its meaning is hidden from the process that moves it. This separation of content from routing is a profound design shift. It allows communication systems to scale. But that scalability comes with constraints. An envelope must be light. Every extra gram multiplies cost over distance. It must be flat enough to stack, sort, and transport in bulk. It must be durable enough to survive handling, but cheap enough to be disposable. It must fit standardized sizes so machines and later people can process it quickly. These constraints explain the envelope's familiar form. The rectangle is not aesthetic. It aligns with paper production, writing habits, and storage systems. The folds are not decorative. They are optimized to close securely with minimal material. The flap exists to create closure without requiring tools. The envelope solves many problems by doing very little. That minimalism is intentional. Any added complexity would slow the system down. Any added strength would increase cost. Any added security would create friction. This reveals an important truth. Envelopes are not designed to prevent access. They are designed to regulate it. An envelope does not stop someone from reading a letter. It signals that reading requires permission. That signal is powerful enough that most people obey it without enforcement. This is where the envelope becomes a social object rather than a mechanical one. Its effectiveness relies on shared norms. Opening someone else's mail feels wrong even when it is easy. The envelope's fragility is part of its success. If it were armored, violation would feel like theft. Because it is delicate, violation feels like intrusion. The design invites restraint. This also explains why envelopes feel formal, even when empty. The act of placing something inside one elevates it. A bill feels official. An invitation feels intentional. A personal letter feels private. The envelope frames the content emotionally before it is ever read. That framing matters. Over time, envelopes became tools for timing. A message inside an envelope is not available until it arrives. It creates anticipation. It creates delay. It creates space between writing and reading. In a world without instant communication, this delay was not a flaw, it was a feature. The envelope allowed thoughts to travel without demanding immediate response. It slowed conversation to human pace. Decisions could be considered. Emotions could cool. Messages could be reread before sending. This temporal buffer-shaped behavior just as much as privacy did. Even today, when envelopes are less necessary, they retain symbolic power. Legal documents arrive in envelopes. Official notices arrive in envelopes. Handwritten letters feel more meaningful when enclosed. The envelope continues to communicate seriousness without saying a word. The aha moment often arrives quietly. The envelope is not about hiding information. It is about containing intent. It marks a message as finished, sent, and temporarily unavailable. It creates a clear boundary between sender, system, and recipient. It lets communication move through space without dissolving into noise. That is why its design has barely changed. The envelope reached a point where it satisfied physical constraints, social norms, and human psychology all at once. Any major alteration would weaken one of those balances. Invisible design often works this way. The object becomes so aligned with behavior that it stops being questioned. It fades into the background and becomes part of how we think rather than something we think about. The envelope does not ask for attention. It asks for patience. And in doing so, it reminds us that some of the most influential designs in human history are the ones that quietly decide when something should be opened rather than what it contains.